Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of This Ain't Fake Brother. It is the 21st of August 2014 and that looks
the 20th, Neil. Oh, kayfabe. What a start this show is off to.
Will we do our first ever Roly retake? No,
we will not.
Grand, okay. Fuck. Alright.
Sorry, Neil, I was just getting forgetful in my old age.
Speaking of your old age, did you have a bit of an issue coming down here
right,
today?
I'm only barely here by the skin of my teeth, right?
Sure.
So I'm driving down here from Stillorgan to 218 Smackdown Boulevard, where we reside currently. And so I'm coming from Stillorgan and I'm following the GPS, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have a fucking breeze where I am. And I'm behind a big bus, and there's about 300 metres between me and the traffic lights, right? Mm-hmm. And this bus is indicating like you would when they're pulling in a bus stop.
Sure.
So I look, I see there's no cars coming, and I think I'll just go around him, right?
Yeah.
Only he wasn't indicating to go to a bus stop. He just randomly, accidentally, I guess, still had his indicator on. So I indicate to go around him, pull out, drive around, and see just a line of cars
coming at you.
No, going hundreds of metres down toward the
right. So there's nowhere to go.
So there's nowhere to go, and my spot behind me is gone, right? So so I just keep like slowly driving alongside on the wrong side of the road. Everybody to my left is like beeping and pointing and all sorts, and I'm just like right. And so eventually the light goes green across the other side of the road, like 100 metres down, and cars start coming toward me, and I'm just still driving like I've actually got no idea what I'm going to do here. And all of a sudden I see, right, in the traffic to the left of me that I've come out from, there's a little box junction, and to the left of the box junction is like a little housing estate.
Right.
Now, this is actually the out. You're not supposed to drive back in this way. It's for people to come out and merge with this traffic that I come out of. But I just had no other option, or cars were going to slam into me. So I just flung it round and drove in, right? And everybody who I'd just kind of driven past was like staring at me. So I drove like 200 yards up this hill and behind a little house and like just leaned my head around to see until all those cars had moved along. And then just spun back and came out straight where I'd gone in.
So you were so embarrassed by this, you hid behind a little house.
I was. It was terrifying though. It's
I'm sure it was.
Terrible moment. But anyway, I'm here. So this show may be below par, but I am in shock. So
okay,
me.
well, that's good out. Okay, so we're going to talk about, obviously, we don't have a classic review due to SummerSlam.
I'm actually, by the way, I'm ahead of the game. I've got my Super Brawl review in the can.
Okay, good for you.
Okay. MacBook.
So what are we doing next week?
It's Super Brawl 3.
3?
Yeah.
Which is the event after Bash at the Beach or before it or something?
No, Super Brawl was February.
Okay.
So it's the one after Starrcade.
Sound. So we'll be doing that next week. This week we're just going to go over the news, going to talk SummerSlam, we're going to talk podcasts. There's actually way more podcast stuff than I thought there'd be. And we're going to talk Monday Night Raw's War. So in the news we had going opposed to SummerSlam with AAA's Triple Mania. And
what a name, by the way.
Ridiculous. Well, it's more ridiculous. I think we talked about this last week, the fact that it went against SummerSlam.
Yes, I know, yeah.
Anyway, so it was heavily rumoured that Del Rio and Ray would be making appearances on the show. I watched this after coming in from the Woolshed, lang blasted. I was at the Woolshed for the SummerSlam party again.
Yeah.
And I saw Del Rio in the ring cutting a promo, and even though it was in Spanish, I just decided to watch it. That's how drunk I was. I was like, yeah. And who was he with? Was he with his dad?
I have absolutely no idea. I haven't seen this.
Have you not seen it?
No.
Okay, so
like you said,
I'm going off buzz here.
I have a now deceased MacBook, Neil, so...
yes.
That's on life support, but anyway.
He was... and then somebody came out and they got physical. I think he did two kind of physical things during the show. But somebody in an armbar...
Can I just interrupt for a
did
second?
something else.
Can we do a Kickstarter for my MacBook?
This is
what a podcast is all about.
What are you going to give people to help you with your MacBook?
I'm going to give them this podcast that we provide every week.
So all you have to do with Austin's one is
hang on
nothing.
a second. Diet Sonic PT. I've been trying to do that. Why is Sonic sponsor the show? Local business. People who don't listen to Jim Ross's podcast have no fucking idea what I'm talking about right now.
Great comment from Oklahoma. A sponsor show. Okay, no, I know. Yeah,
so he says diet.
Diet. Ray did a video. What was the gist of the video that Rey Mysterio did?
So Ray's video was very, very short, and it was just him in one of his masks saying, "I'll see you soon." It was supposed to be broadcast on the big screen in the arena to the people, but they accidentally got some of it on, about 10 seconds of it on the pay-per-view broadcast, which was a big no-no given that he's still under contract up north.
Are they going to do anything about it? As in WWE?
No, the whole situation is strange. For those who don't know, Ray's contract expired in April, but because he's missed so many days injured, they believe they have the right to extend it by another year because of the dates he's missed. But I just think that's... I mean, it irritates me how one-sided their contracts are anyway. But I mean, say the guys that they sit at home all the time, like, what's his name, Kurt Hawkins, who was sat at home, or JTG, who was sat at home forever, do they get to say, well, listen, I didn't come out and work, all I got was my downside, so you have to extend me for 50 years until I've worked all the dates that I would have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose.
And what happens? Can they... they're not booking him right now, agreed, yeah?
Yes.
So are they just going to extend him another year next April?
I was saying, if they're planning on extending him, he should have been called back in now.
Yeah, of course. You can't just extend him with the idea, we need you to work, and then not have him work.
Do you not have like a really weird hand injury or something over the last couple of months?
Yeah, but he's back. He's ready to go now. And the other thing is the Del Rio thing, where they're telling Del Rio he can't work in the United States for a year, he can't work in Mexico for 90 days, and they're not going to pay him a penny.
Yeah, see, this is interesting because when the no-compete first came out, there was reports that you could either choose the no-compete and get paid, or you could.
Well, everybody else who gets a 90-day non-compete does get paid.
So why is he's not getting paid because he was
fired
dismissed?
Because of unprofessional conduct.
Interesting.
But I mean, that's basically saying. I mean, well, okay, I'm assuming that Alberto Rodriguez, from the family he comes from, is a very wealthy man. Is not going to struggle to pay his bills. Let's just say he's got a fucking $1 million mansion, like the one Bret Hart had in Springfield, right? They're telling him you can't work anywhere for 3 months and you can't work in America for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, how's that legal? But it's one of those that no one ever challenges them because they don't, WWE just basically buys you. They extend it long enough in court that people can never take them on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So that's what Bully Ray was saying recently about why they lost the Dudley name, because they couldn't afford to challenge WWE in court. But
was that on Jay Ware's podcast?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Great, we'll get to that. Let's talk about him. Perfect. Bully Ray. Just we'll get to the podcast in a while. But his TNA current contract. He's telling people that he's leaving. Now he's been. Am I right by saying he's been announced? They announced the Hall of Fame at Slammiversary, and then you go in at Bound for Glory.
Yeah, let me. Because can I? I'm the TNA guy here. Okay.
All right, Joe. Right,
now I like to pride myself on being fair. I know that sometimes I can come across a bit anti WWE because I'm not enamored by the current product. And that sometimes I can seem like a bit of a TNA crusader because I do enjoy their product at the moment. But I'm never anything less than fair. And this is the biggest cluster muck, as Stone Cold would say on a Tuesday. I mean, here's what happened. They announced the Hall of Fame for the Dudleys in June at Slammiversary for Bubba and Devon.
Yeah.
Okay? Team 3D. They signed Devon to a contract that would cover him to go into the Hall of Fame, okay? In October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bully's contract, however, was due to expire in September, okay?
Yeah.
Now, this is all in June that this is happening. They then built the entire company around Bully putting Dixie through a table. They had this whole campaign where they bought advertising to get the hashtag Put Your Boss Through a Table Day trending. All this kind of stuff.
Did it get trending, actually? No, it didn't, did it? That just
TNA. So if a hashtag falls in the woods, does it make a sound? You know what I mean? But so then it comes out that at their most recent house shows last week, Bully Ray said his goodbyes to the talent because his contract expires in the next 14 days before the next set of TNA tapings. So they announced him for the Hall of Fame. They announced the two of them for the Hall of Fame, made sure they signed Devon, who they did not have to a contract. Yet they didn't think, well, maybe we should just extend Bully by 2 months to say cover the end of November, and then we'll negotiate with him. And think about this: 12 months ago, that's exactly what they did with AJ, whose contract also expired in mid-September.
That's right.
Another thing here: is it just me, or does every single TNA contract expire at the same time? Because Kurt Angle is September 21, Bully Ray's in the next 2 weeks, Jeff Hardy's in the next 4 weeks, AJ was this time last year. So it seems like all their contracts
September-ish.
were or are timed to expire in September. But I cannot, you know how I had my rant on Vince McMahon and the money they wasted on the network.
Sure.
This is not quite a catastrophe on that level financially. However, in terms of planning and organisation, I mean, what the fuck are they at? You do not build the entire company around someone who's then going to walk out. They just did it.
They just did it with AJ, yeah, and
now he's gone, and he's the best wrestler in the world this year, and he's the New Japan World Champion, and they're doing it again with Bully. And Bully's price in the Indies is probably higher now than it would have been in the last 3-4 years after the one he's had.
No comparison.
So the chances that they're going to be able to get him in a cut price deal, which is obviously what they're trying to do, is slim. He contributes on the creative end. He's one of the producers at all the house shows. He writes his own storylines and he's input in other people's storylines. It's just fucking absurd. And,
with him going, as you said, there's a difference between him just being like a Hogan who was on ridiculous money, or an AJ who was,
AJ wasn't big money. He apparently was on 350k.
But the point is, it's like Bubba isn't just somebody on big money, or he's not just a big name, or he's not just a wrestler. He had so much within there that what it says to me is that nobody's sacred. Do you know what I mean? It's nobody is too special to be fired from TNA besides Vince Russo and Dixie Carter.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just like, and that says it all. That's all you ever need to know about that company. Shocking. All right, before we talk about SummerSlam, is there something you want to say?
No.
Before we talk about SummerSlam, there was the symposium, video game symposium, 2K15 symposium that, breaking the record for the amount of times you can say symposium in a sentence, was hosted last year by Jim Ross, which caused his eventual termination from the company. This is just
he wasn't
fascinating.
drinking a Sonic Peach tea that day.
Well, maybe with a splash of vodka. Yeah. No, he wasn't around. Yeah,
intoxicated.
This was fascinating. I was telling Ken about this when I watched it the other day, that I'm fascinated when there's these kind of press conferences, whether it's Comic-Con or whether it's something like a video game symposium, where you get these guys out of their comfort zone and out of a scripted environment. And, they do fan questions. You never know which way it's going to go. The panel was incredible. So Renee Young introduced Roman Reigns, Cesaro, Sheamus, Cena, Hogan, and Sting. Amazing.
Not bad.
Just unbelievable. They all had little headsets as well, which made the whole thing brilliant because they were never turned off. So if the lads were talking to each other, like while somebody else was answering a question, you could kind of overhear it.
Yeah.
And there's the banter between Sheamus and Cesaro. Sheamus kept telling Cesaro that he really liked his music, as like taking a complete job at like the fact he has the worst music ever.
Cesaro's music is not great, is it?
The banter between Sheamus and Cesaro was the real story of it. It was just going back and forth. They just kept like having goes at each other, and then like the other guys were making insinuations that there was more to the friendship than met the eye. Catch my drift?
Yeah.
But anyway, so after they introduce everybody, Steve Austin comes out. And Steve Austin he's just like...
a great man, isn't he, really?
His presenting skills are absolutely incredible. And even when you know he's tripped over, he just recovers so well. Yeah. Watching Steve Austin interview Hogan was just the most amazing thing. Like, he did start off by saying... obviously,
I would love to hear them on the podcast.
And I think they will. But
you think so? Because Austin and Hogan have never had a good relationship.
Yeah, but it's kind of like... I agree with that, but they started off... Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff in the media this week about who is the bigger star. They were both asked, and they both, kind of like poo-pooed the other one's answers, as they would. But that's the very first thing that Austin said to Hogan. He goes, "We're not here to talk about who's the greatest of all time, even though I drop your Diamond X kind of stunner thing." Like, it was amazing. And throughout the show, he kept saying, "I'd never lay down for a leg drop." There was another moment where they were talking about potential matches and who people would like to face, and there was an ongoing gag that every time all Sting would say was The Undertaker, and people were like chanting it, and like just like it became a joke almost.
Yeah.
But Sheamus was saying, fella, I'd love to get in there with you, and in a battle royal, I'd kill everyone, bro kicks all round. And Austin goes, "What if I don't feed for that bro kick, brother? Because I wouldn't." He was like on fire. Like, he was saying all
these. I have to download this.
Yeah, like Hogan wasn't laughing though this shit. I was like, "Oh, bro!" Like, he was like at a WWE event in front of like the biggest name ever, the biggest name today, and in front of all these people who were as much video games fans as hardcore wrestling fans, doing his old tackle, drop down, grab a headlock. He was doing his whole shtick. Renee Young was just standing there like not knowing what was happening.
Headlock, tackle, drop down, get it again.
Get it again. It was it's absolutely brilliant. But
how long is it?
It's about an hour.
Okay, yeah.
But him just asking Hogan questions, and it's in the exact same style that he'd ask on the podcast, except just seeing his mannerisms, seeing Hogan answer. Hogan was they were both very, very respectful to each other. Hogan and Cena have great banter as always. Cena reveals it's not really much of a surprise, but he's tried on multiple occasions, supposedly, personally, to get Austin to do a Mania match with him. And here's the thing: if Austin's not doing a Mania match with Cena, I don't know who he is doing it with. But that's what I want to talk to you about.
There was always the talk of Punk, wasn't there?
Well, I never saw that happening. But Brock would be the one that I might, for different reasons. I want to talk to you about the booking of Brock Lesnar after we talk about
SummerSlam. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Pre-show match was RVD against Cesaro. This basically started
I didn't see this, by the way.
RVD's winning streak.
Yes, 2 matches, isn't it?
2-match winning streak. This was good. RVD was like he looked motivated again. He did his best. Cesaro with all his power moves went about 6 or 7 minutes. It was great. Now the thing about
can I just say something? What I noticed on Raw, because I watched a SmackDown from 2001 recently as well. If you watch Rob Van Dam in the replays of Rob Van Dam, like the double features in 2001, and the live Rob Van Dam today, it's basically the same thing. He moves at the same speed in the replays, the slow-mos back then, and in real life now. I'm serious, like, it genuinely is similar.
Will you stop it? The most amazing thing about this pre-show, this was just phenomenal. They had the panel in the arena in the usual spot, Alex Riley, Flair,
Tenzai,
and Booker. And when they started talking about Stephanie and Brie, a quack quack noise went off, and a graphic on the bottom of the screen came up that just said "Shucky Ducky Quack Quack," and had a little rubber duck with Booker T's tied up hairdo on it.
Oh my god!
It stayed there the whole time he talked about the women's match.
That's effing incredible.
It's literally like
I have to go back and see it.
Yeah, it was the highlight of the pre-show.
Ducky Ducky Quack Quack.
The show itself opened up with Dolph Ziggler versus Miz for the Intercontinental title. This is literally as good a Miz match as you're ever going to see. Dolph...
hang on a second. He had a better match with... the ladder match with Jerry Lawler and the match with John Morrison. Remember the Falls Count Anywhere match when he was champion? When there was like a spot off the Titantron on it and stuff? Like I'm talking 4-star matches.
Jerry had a 3-way with John Morrison and Bryan that opened a pay-per-view that was really good.
Yeah, but you also remember the 3-way main eventing in pay-per-view with Cena and John Morrison.
In the cage.
Why?
Was that the month after
27? Was after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Why? Like?
Well, what I mean is current day Miz. Miz who had given up for a while, but now has found his feet again.
I think they'd given up on him.
I think he'd given up. He had no confidence.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, he had no confidence. I wouldn't say he gave up, but he certainly had no confidence.
So yeah, this was the finisher with the zigzag, and they let Ziggler kick out of the skull crushing finale as well, which was awesome. Did you enjoy this match?
Yeah, it was good. Like probably 3 stars.
I think so.
What I did find funny though was last month I kind of was hoping they were going to get behind Miz a little bit because I like this new coat of paint they have. And the next night on Raw, of course, he lost. And of course, what happened to Ziggler the night after this?
Yeah,
way to build a champion, guys.
And we'll get to Raw. Absolutely, Brie Bell did an interview backstage. She just talked like it was like a really, 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 really long sentence. To me,
I read somebody on Twitter. I can't remember who said this. They said that Nikki Bella is not great, but she practices her lines well and she gets away with it. Brie Bella is like a porn star actress. I actually think it's bang on.
I don't know. I think the only time I ever saw Nikki Bella look like she had practiced her lines was this week on Raw.
Yeah, usually, that's what they were tweeting in relation to.
Dreadful. Okay, that's fair enough then, maybe. We'll see how that trend moves forward. She pretty much just poo-pooed the idea that Bryan cheated on her. Even though they played it up again on Raw like it was still a possibility. Something that they're going to touch on anyway while the storyline continues. AJ Lee versus Paige for a Divas title. They switched the belt again back to Paige. She has gotten rid of her black... she's gotten rid of the...
PTO?
Yeah, the Paige Turner, and reversed the Black
Her
Widow.
version of a Scorpion Deathlock. What was it they called it?
And the Paige Turner was her one, and then the PTO was her version of the Scorpion Crosslock.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a Scorpion Crosslock either.
Absolutely not.
It's because they didn't want to say Scorpion Deathlock.
Exactly. It was still different though. It's a different move.
Yeah, but they wanted to... They are referring to a Scorpion Deathlock. It's just they're not allowed to say death. It's like when they had to say international objects instead of foreign objects in the 90s in WCW. I'm serious, by the way.
I know that. No, I knew that one.
I read that in Observer.
Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, let's see. She has a new finisher now called the Rampage. This was like 20 times the match that compared to last month at Battleground. Was Battleground last month?
The July pay-per-view. Yeah, I think it was, actually.
Yeah. And there
they
you
need
go.
to, by the way, they really need to re-establish when pay-per-views are.
Oh, man, Vengeance has been over, 3 or 4 different months?
Yeah.
Vengeance Night of Champions.
Even Battleground was October last year, wasn't it?
I know, yeah. I remember when Battleground came around this year, I was like, it's been a year? No, it hadn't. So, yeah, there you go. So, this feud continues. Paige is champion. It was a fine match.
Yeah, it was fine. 2.5 stars, I would have said.
The thing coming out of this show, and it's a lot of hyperbole about, like, Jericho said it, Stephanie said it in her opening promo on Raw, but people says this was a better show than WrestleMania. This was by no means a better show than WrestleMania, but it was a very consistent show. There was nothing dreadful on it whatsoever, and the good stuff was very good. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, Jack Swagger versus Rusev in a flag match where the winner basically gets their anthem played. This is not a flag match. This was by no means a flag match.
Listen, I should have stipulated the rules when I gave them this idea 5 or 6 weeks ago. They really, really, really did shit the bed here because
they came so close. They gave us what you said.
Yeah, and they took it away. There was no point in doing a flag match if you weren't going to protect one of them, because you could have gotten another 4 weeks out of this, I think.
Because Jackie Swagger could have won the flag match. Like, you could have even had Zeb interfere.
Yeah.
Distraction.
Yeah.
To have Jackie Swagger win. And nobody would have seen it as a heel move because it was like, America.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, now instead, Zeb looks like he's not long for the world.
What Ken means by this is basically after it's very strange. The match started.
Good match.
The match started
Another
off
2.5 stars.
and Swagger had him in the ankle lock before the match started, and Rusev said he'd continue anyway. Wasn't that it? Yeah,
what happened is Rusev did attack Swagger first.
Yeah, but Swagger got the upper hand.
Swagger got the upper hand, got the ankle lock on him. What's her face? Natasha didn't want the match to go on, and Swagger demanded it did, so they had the match, and Rusev sold the ankle well on match. I thought it was actually, like, it reminded me so much of all the wrestling that I'm watching now, the early 90s stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just basic wrestling match, but I enjoyed it.
So the finish was
Accolade.
He had him in the Accolade. They did the whole Steve Austin kind of thing with him not tapping, and he passed out from the pain, so Rusev won. They had the flag drop down from the top, which they do anyway every week, so that wasn't even special.
Yeah.
And they didn't have it dropped down, they had it raised up.
But they dropped it down and then raised it up. It was really strange.
Did they?
Yeah.
What?
They dropped it down, but it wasn't unfurled.
Yeah, yeah.
The people had rolled it, because all the chains came down holding the flag, and then they went back up. But anyway, yeah.
And after the match, Zeb got a boot in the face from Rusev. So you think this is the end?
Well, just because of what Bo Dallas said. He said you lost your manager.
Yeah, on Raw he did. We'll get to that. Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins in legitimately, and I'd love to hear if you have another one, because I've been racking my brains, the best lumberjack match I've ever seen.
I mean, I didn't really think this was a very good match.
What?
But I still wouldn't disagree with the idea this was the best lumberjack match ever. I thought it was...
So you didn't think this was a good match?
I had such disparate feelings on this. Okay, it was... It's just a clusterfuck. It didn't make any sense. It was like when they had a cage match and the Wyatts... this is back in April, the cage match between Cena and Wyatt, and the Wyatts spent the whole time interfering. You had lumberjacks out there who were trying to stop Ambrose and Rollins fighting with each other in this here fight. And then...
Hold on, Ken.
Hang on a second.
Their jobs are to put them back in the ring, though.
What?
Their jobs are to put the guys back in the ring.
Yeah, but they were trying to stop them fighting each other. They were just holding the back. They were both trying to get at each other. But then they just wandered off into the crowd. It's like, so hang on, these 20 men couldn't stop these two from getting off into the crowd. And then
I think there was a jurisdiction issue. I think that the lumberjacks felt, right, that what they have to do is when the lads go out into the ring, they throw them back in. But when they went up into the bleachers, the lumberjacks were like, whoa, man.
Will you be serious? Listen, and then there was just Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow at Heatwave 98 brawling the crowd.
It was so much better than that.
Nah, it was very uninspired. And the only good spot was when Ambrose did the dive onto the pile, like which reminded me of Taker at
it was In Your House, wasn't it?
In Your House Ground Zero in 1997. Yeah. And then from there, they did their moves and it was okay. I didn't like Kane interfering at the finish, and I didn't see why Ambrose needed to lose here. Who's going to lose the next night anyway? Well, Ambrose... But no, it was like it was 3 stars, but only because of the last 3 minutes. It was a mess of a match.
I would disagree. I thought it was tremendous fun. I was coming into this with a lot of trepidation because I felt that they were handicapping these two guys by giving them a lumberjack match stipulation rather than a one-on-one match, and we would see how great we'd see how great a one-on-one match was delivered the next night. But the fact is, I found it so much fun. And I've been saying for weeks, and now everybody else is jumping on the bandwagon. I'm sure you've seen this, Ken. Everybody else is saying this, but I've been saying, I think since episode 1 of this show, that Dean Ambrose is 1997 Steve Austin. And no more so than this week did they make him 1997 Steve Austin.
Yeah.
In the fact that, like, he would just see Kofi and just throw him around. He was like hitting anything that moved. He was a complete lunatic. And although you might say that it's slightly preposterous that they were running around and they weren't being chased by lumberjacks, the fact is they wanted to create a sense of pure and utter lack of control or loss of control.
Okay. My abiding feeling during the whole thing was it shouldn't have been a lumberjack match.
Well,
do you remember the feeling that you and I had at WrestleMania when Daniel Bryan lost in 18 seconds?
Oh, I wouldn't.
No, it wasn't at that level, but it was the same. It was just I was just like, why am I watching this shit? These two could have a great match, which they did on the free television show.
Well, I actually thought this was a great match, so I was pleasantly surprised because I came in here with low expectations.
I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was not what I wanted out of a pay-per-view match.
Well, the next match particularly, I would go and agree with you that. But let's just talk about the finish of the first one. It was weird having the Wyatts out here as lumberjacks. I found actually was kind of the strangest thing about it. But anyway, we against Kane, it was very interesting. Kane came in and broke up the pin, and then Goldust jumped in. And there's Goldust from Kane, and I loved it. I don't know why, but I just loved it.
They gave this Goldust this shine spot.
Yeah, exactly. Then we had the lumberjacks in the ring clear house. Ambrose threw out all the heel lumberjacks, and they tried to attack him. So basically, you had Kane and the heel lumberjacks. Ambrose coming against all the odds, and then you had Rollins hit him with the briefcase for the pin. And you couldn't have, like, you can say what you want about who should have won, but you couldn't have gone out of your way more to protect Ambrose in a loss. And that is a really good sign for me, because we were worried a few months ago, especially with the initial breakup with the Shield, of where his position needs to be. And like Ken, you talk about Dave Meltzer on this podcast, mostly because you're crediting him for certain pieces that you use in this show or certain stats, and that's what you should do. Shouldn't pass off as your own, but you do mention him more than Jesus Christ is mentioned in an average 45-minute mass per episode. And now I'm going to mention him because this week on Wrestling Observer Radio he said, I don't know when they'll do it, I don't know if it'll be 3 months or 3 years, but this guy needs to be the main guy. They need to focus the company around him. Haven't I not been saying that for a long time?
Yes, you have. Yep.
Do you agree?
I think so. I don't know what the lunatic fringe is, by the way.
I don't like that.
No, I don't know. Is it referring to his actual fringe?
No.
Okay, I have no idea what it is then.
Okay.
I think so, yes, but you can never be sure until they're there, because I always think there's a thing of the chase is better than the run. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I don't know if he will have the lasting power once he's on top, because I think we all assume it's going to be Reigns, and I think you could still 90% say it will be. If Reigns gets the belt at Mania next year, you got to go with them for I think at least 9 months before taking the belt off them, so they'd have to do the same thing with Ambrose before I think you'd really know. But yeah, I would think he has more upside than Roman. Yeah.
I would agree. And you're watching a lot of early 90s WCW, I'm watching a lot of late 90s WWE, and I can tell you right now, I'm getting to the point here where Austin and Bret have just had their third match, and they're starting to give Austin the things like
the Revenge Taker match.
Yeah, and they're starting to give Austin little bits like he's in an ambulance when Brett's supposed to be
yes. That's the best Raw of all time.
They're starting to give him those
April
things.
21st, 1997.
Owen is so good. I'd love to talk about that another day. But
we'll review that one of these days.
I'd love that. Point is this: Dean Ambrose right now in his first year as a single being featured is far more confident on the mic than Steve Austin was in '97. I'm talking the first half of '97.
Okay.
Like, seriously though.
I always say this. Myself and Sean went to WrestleMania 2010 in Phoenix. Went to 2 of the Dragon Gate shows, and by far...
You would have been there.
Yeah, by far the best match we saw at any of the indie shows. We also went to a Ring of Honor show. Was John Moxley against Tommy Dreamer. And Sean and I both... Sean particularly took a shine to him. I thought he was really good. He had a real heel, kind of sleazy presence. But I also remember remarking to myself, there is literally no chance this man will ever end up in WWE. You know what I mean?
Wow. Well, this was before they started letting up a little bit on the indie people.
Yeah, and also his physique, which, I mean, is okay now, was
that's what I wanted to actually ask you. I never saw... I've been to a few Manias, I've been to many indies. Every time I go to a Mania, I never saw him. I actually saw him have a dark match.
Yeah,
we saw him have a dark match.
Yeah.
And then I saw him put the promo with Foley at the hotel.
Okay.
Which everybody journalist said was Access, which it wasn't. I just happened to be there. But he his physique now, as you said, is fine. What was it like back in the Dragon Gate days? Because I've never watched.
It was very. I'm trying to think of a wrestler to compare it to. I don't want to say. For some reason, Matt Hardy always comes to mind as somebody who just has like. You haven't seen Matt Hardy recently?
I have, yeah, but he's a bit tubby. Though.
Yeah, so he wasn't tubby, but do you remember? I'll tell you exactly who it was. Do you remember when Edge won the belt in 2006 the first time?
Yes.
When they were all just coming off because Eddie had died.
Right,
remember, he just had like no physique at all.
Sure.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edge, okay.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course I do. All right.
By the way, you mentioned our friend Big Dave. Did you see his interview with Hulk Hogan?
Yes, I did. This was also done, by the way, the same weekend festivities as the Symposium. He interviewed Hogan, Sting, and Bryan. The Bryan interview hasn't come out yet. What were your thoughts on the Hogan and Sting?
One was fascinating because Hogan was just like, Dave, if you've got a love for the business and you really want to do it one more time and stuff. He felt like Dave was the one person he felt like he couldn't really work. Do you know what I mean?
I have a theory on this, but please continue. Explain to everybody how different Hogan was.
He was very, maybe he was still working because with Hogan you never know, there's so many levels.
Yeah,
but he just was so low key and personable. You know what I mean? He was talking to Dave.
Humble.
And, and he'd said in other interviews that he was burying, I actually said in this interview he was making a point of burying grudges. He talked about, because him and Dave had quote unquote heat for a long time. You remember the famous Observe This, the Observer being burned on WWE
on Nitro, yeah. Oh, was it pay-per-view? Okay.
Yeah. And but he mentioned that he wanted a match with John Cena and that he was I don't want to say politicking for it, but he's like, I want Hunter and Vince to trust me and to give me the ball. And he said he was embarrassed by his last kind of run, the Australian tour, the matches in TNA. And that he just wanted a chance to do one more and go out on top, and it was interesting. That to me would indicate that he never did have a physical, that they just brought him in with no intention of using him. But I will say this, that whatever happens going forward with him, I think there's something to him coming in to do these odd plugs or like the Open to SummerSlam as he did. But you have to do something that means something with him at some point.
Yeah, you have to integrate him into the product.
And even he, I found it interesting he was burying TNA for using him every single week when I guarantee you he wanted them to use him every week because his TNA contract was a per show
agreement. Yeah, 30 grand, 15 grand was there?
35 grand, yeah. And if they did TV taping with two shows in one night, he got double. So you do two interviews before the same crowd on the same evening, he gets 70 grand.
That's incredible money.
But it was just interesting to see. And would you like to see one more Hogan match?
No, I don't think he can do it.
No?
No. What I found really interesting out of the interview is when talking about his mobility, he didn't cite his back or knees for the reason he walks like he's got a wooden plank between his pants and his t-shirt. He said that it was arthritis in his toes. So he can't lean forward. Yeah, so that's why he walks so stiff. Yeah. And I guess there's a logic to that. If your kneecaps are metal, if your back is metal...
Yeah, as you said, his hips and his knees are both replaced.
Yeah,
like all four of those.
He's got a metal plate in his back as well.
Yeah.
So after 7 surgeries, but
they could bill him as RoboCop.
Sting actually mentioned RoboCop at the Symposium to a gigantic pop.
That's great. I've watched that recently.
Oh, it is very funny. Okay, what are your percentage chances of Hogan having one more match in WWE? We don't have to put a year on it. We don't have to put an opponent.
45.
You're not there, but you're as close as you could be.
I think he's really going to politic hard for it, and I think it all comes down to the medical. Because I think Vince ultimately knows if there's money in it. and I always think if someone can sit Vince down, then you got a chance that things happen. That's why I think if Kurt can get Vince in a room, which I don't know if he can, maybe he can come back. Yeah. But until that happens, you know what I mean? You look at Warrior, even him and Vince were able to iron things out when they sat down.
That was more Paul.
Well, yeah.
Sure, Hogan's in there,
That's what I mean. So I think if
you're
he
right.
can get Vince
I guess I was comparing it to
Kurt. Because there's money in that match. There's money in Hogan Cena.
Ken, look, listen. And by the way, Dave Meltzer said that he believes from what Hogan had said about one more match that it is Cena he's lobbying for.
Hogan, it is, yeah. He said that himself.
Hogan had denied it. That it was Cena, but he said it.
Did he? Yeah, he said it was.
No,
anyway,
he denied it. But here's the thing: of course, there's money in that match.
Yeah,
as much as there's money in Hogan and Austin. But what it would do, it would just shit the bed so badly that it would be a pure nightmare for WWE.
Why do you think it would shit the bed so badly?
Because it's Hogan.
Okay, but hang on. He had a 2.5-star match. We agreed on that.
Okay, but this is way different, man. That 2.5-star match was Hogan not... Do you think WWE would let Hulk Hogan fight John Cena at WrestleMania not in Hulk Hogan's gear?
I think he didn't wear his gear just because it was a street fight.
I think he didn't wear his gear because
I'm sure he could wear his long pants and a red and yellow T-shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they wouldn't. I don't think WWE take that shortcuts. I'd say one of the conditions on Sting is that he wears his attire and not a T-shirt over a singlet.
Oh, I'm sure he will, but I mean, he takes the T-shirt off. I don't think Hogan has the the Flair in 2001 physique issues.
Well, I just think he has the mobility issues. I like
maybe he does.
When you talk about the spots, people running into his fist, into his boot. I don't even think he could give a big boot.
Well, he seems to think he can. I don't know.
I don't understand how a person who can't literally walk properly can run. I'm so like
Kevin Nash. Okay, Kevin Nash couldn't run when he started in pro wrestling, and he got 2 decades.
Come on, he can run a bit.
His knees are totally fucked. He couldn't.
His knees are pretty bad. But let me
tell you what. Actually, I watched the SmackDown from 2001, and there's a chase scene with Undertaker and DDP, and neither man can. I mean, it's embarrassing.
I'd say DDP could do it now, though.
He probably could, but Taker couldn't in 2001. So
let me say this to you: I'm a bit more of a sentimental old fool than you are when it comes to wrestling, especially when it comes to nostalgia.
Well, you should be wanting this Hogan match.
But this is the thing: like, doesn't it say to you like how convinced I am he can't do it if I don't even want it?
It does say.
I'm going to WrestleMania next year.
Oh, are you? Okay.
That's my honeymoon. That's why I'm getting married in March. Okay. Right? That's the reason we decided to get married in March.
You're just stealing my gimmick here, brother.
That's a good idea.
For those who don't know, Neill
you were the first to
got
do
engaged on a beach 18 months after, no, 6 months rather, after I did. And
I didn't know you got engaged on the beach, sorry.
I did. Did you not? Oh,
no, I didn't. I also didn't.
And now you're having WrestleMania as your honeymoon, just like I had WrestleMania as my honeymoon.
That's right.
Oh, Neill.
But it makes sense.
You should get married at Santa Clara Beach, rather.
No, we're doing the big shindig over here, you know.
I know, yeah. I'd be all over there, so I would.
Well, maybe you can come to both.
Maybe.
Well, we are putting it out there, the feelers of people coming to the honeymoon too.
It's WrestleMania, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because it'd be a great location for non-wrestling fans.
I have two nieces on the way, my cousin over there, so I'll be on the opposite coast around that time.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Them transcontinental. No, but listen, in all fairness, I'm going to WrestleMania next year, right? And like, if somebody said to me years ago, man, could you imagine going to WrestleMania, you finally get Sting and Taker? And I'd be like, yeah, but you also get Cena Hogan.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my God. But after just seeing Hogan walk around, it's just like, no, I don't want that.
All right.
I don't. Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt. It was a good match. It was probably better than the first match, but it's just they haven't done anything for me.
I have. You had your moment on your soapbox about 10 minutes ago about Roman Reigns. I have been saying since a long time before we started this podcast, but for those who are just new to our world, since episode 1, that Bray Wyatt was a scam and a charlatan,
come on,
a cod. But I've just pointed out that his promos, that he has a charisma, but his promos have no substance to them. That there's really not much to the gimmick, and that in the ring, he just doesn't get people invested. When he's in there with the right person who has the crowd already, like a Cena, like a Bryan, maybe. But Jericho, who's been lukewarm on this run, needs an opponent to have a match, and he just doesn't have one. These matches, I'm not saying they're bad matches, but I mean, they're not good matches. And the way Bray was blowing spots, the missing the leg on the rope toward the end was really awkward and obvious.
And they also had the issue in the first match with the backbreaker as well.
Yes, they did.
Look,
it's really petering out, and there's the lack of substance to Bray Wyatt as a performer and as a character is being painfully exposed to the world, and I am enjoying being right about this one.
I still feel it's a lack of proper build. I think the match would have been better if it had better heat. I think they haven't built it properly at all. And Bray Wyatt has gone from opening and closing Raws, getting the whole crowd to sing along with him, to just being in very, very short backstage vignettes.
But what?
Are you saying they're doing this because they've lost faith?
His character doesn't lend itself to storylines. It's a one note. It's like
Jericho's a creative guy. I thought they could have done better than this, building it.
I think that they could if there was more to the character, and that's not even a slate of the performer. Which, again, I don't think he's a bad performer. I just don't think he's at the level.
He's actually a very good performer for his age, considering how different it is.
Yeah, it's a different character, and he's a unique charisma. But I just think there's just not really any substance to the character.
I said last week I think they're getting a bit worried, and maybe it's for the reasons you're citing. Maybe it's just flavor of the month, Vince McMahon. But either way, I expected so much when I heard Jericho was coming back. When they did the initial first segment, Miz coming back, Jericho coming back, White's in the ring. It's just been completely downhill since then.
I almost think that part of the problem is his promos. While they're they're meandering, they do have great delivery. Okay, he had the great vignettes. His backstage promos are quite moody and they have a certain atmosphere to them. And his entrance, if you give him nothing else, is spectacular. Right? I almost feel like every part of him is so polished, and just as a performer, he's not bad. But Curtis Axel is not a bad performer. But the problem is, if you're going to be a performer at that level, you have to have some type of presence, and he just doesn't really have an in-ring presence. It's surprising.
Okay, so you're talking about so you say he's got everything except the high level in ring.
I'm not a fan of the material, the character he's given, but it's over to an extent. But he doesn't lift it with his work. Whereas, say for example, Dean Ambrose, his work is on point. Reigns in places, he's got spots that are really, really over. But with Wyatt, I just am left flat. And obviously, because the last 2 months in a row, and his matches have just. It hasn't been what you would expect. If I told you 8 weeks ago these two were going to have a feud, you would have expected 2 better and 2 more heated matches than they've had.
And that's exactly what I said. And I'm really disappointed. And I think it's the build.
Have we yet discussed the podcast?
No, we'll do that.
Okay.
I swear to God, it was the first thing I wrote down last week. Finished with Sister Abigail into a barricade. Wyatt then rolled him back into the ring, hit it again. After the match, he sang his song. Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon.
All about Sister Abigail, Wyatt.
This was a match that I was really looking forward to. A lot of people had this as their main event.
Which?
Stephanie and Brie. First off, Stephanie's outfit was just...
What was that?
She looked phenomenal.
Oh, do you think so? As in, attractive?
Oh, she looked amazing.
Really?
Stephanie has looked amazing consistently.
Vinny V said on the B&V and C show last night that he thought she looked better on Raw in her Steph t-shirt. I fully agree with him.
I don't, because those tits looked ridiculous. At least there was black and balancing in that outfit, and it was a spectacular outfit. It was just a spectacular outfit. I loved a WrestleMania outfit.
I think MT and I were kind of looking at going, what on earth is she wearing?
Man, I thought she looked beautiful.
She always has gone for these daring outfits at times. I remember she wore a catsuit at WrestleMania once, and
I
thought her this year's WrestleMania outfit that was awful. But
the penguin suit, I actually thought her catsuit was awful too at WrestleMania.
I'm not one of these people who think Steph is this spectacular.
I don't think she's spectacular. I thought but at SummerSlam she looks spectacular.
I think the IWC, pardon my use of the terminology, has this kind of she looks just like Vince McMahon, only a woman with tits, so she's hot thing going
and
on.
That's the one thing that makes me feel weird about her.
Yeah.
For instance, in dresses, no, I don't think she looks good.
But I thought she looked really good on Raw in her jeans and t-shirt. But then it should be on the record that I think a woman looks best in just jeans and t-shirt.
So do I usually.
Really,
but I thought she looked awful in jeans and t-shirt.
What a fascinating insight into our minds this is for the listener.
There you go. Yeah, it's in no way a crude conversation about women's appearance,
really.
which I really like, because that guy Craig's so funny.
Listen, Craig, just for the record, on the B&B and C show this week, when his gag about glossing over Nikki, I thought was just 5 stars.
Okay, explain this to people.
Did you know? They were talking about glossing over something during the recap of the Nikki Bella Monday Night Raw segment, and Craig just said, "I'd like to gloss over Nikki" in his dry, bassy voice. I just thought it was fantastic.
Man of God who doesn't curse but can say stuff like that.
As did Vidium, right? But that's why he's a man of God, because he knows he's bad and he needs to repent, Neill.
So pathetic.
You can't. Well, listen,
I can have my opinion on somebody, especially when he has such differing morals.
You can't listen to a podcast and worry about someone's moral beliefs.
Of course I can, because it affects.
It just
affects him in general. Just the way he is a hypocrite and a complete contradiction of himself.
Do you know what your problem is, son?
I don't have a problem.
Your problem is you didn't sit next to Craig at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and that's what's done to you, and I can't believe that you're able to fit in beside him. Stephanie, come on now.
Well, Brian Alvarez was in between us.
Yeah, that would help.
So, yeah.
No offense to Brian, but I am even taller than him. Okay, so Stephanie and Nikki actually had a match, which a lot of people weren't expecting. And this was weird, because you'd think it was going to be a lot of bells and whistles and stuff. They had a match, and per female wrestling standards in WWE, Stephanie was absolutely competent, but it just didn't fit. because this was like supposed to be a blood feud, and you would think that it was going to be more akin perhaps to Ambrose and Rollins. So them just having a match I found very, very strange. Even though it wasn't horrible, it was just didn't fit.
Right. I have so much to say about this. Okay, this match got more ring time than The Miz and Ziggler. Now, obviously, there's a reason in the sense of how important it is, but I 100% knew, right, that they were going to have a wrestling match. And it was going to, like, they were going to lock up and exchange
Were the pedigrees
holds.
the giveaway?
What?
Were the pedigrees the week before the giveaway?
No. I knew it because in the same way as, I don't know why I always think of this, but as Triple H insisted on having like 25-minute matches on pay-per-view with Steiner and Kozlov, when it was very clear they couldn't do it, right? There is just this McMahon thing of wanting to, and it's not necessarily negative, it's pride in their work.
When you say McMahon thing, I'd say it's far more Trips and Stephanie thing than Vince thing. Like, you see Vince talk about his matches in candid interviews, and you know he's just like...
But he gives everything in a different way, though. But the point is, I just knew that they were going to practice this match. And it was very practiced, you know what I mean? It was very choreographed. It was like a DDP match. But you're right to say there was nothing wrong with it. It was a perfectly good wrestling match. In a sense, it was probably better than a lot of the women's matches, even the good ones that they have. But
it didn't fit.
It didn't
for me.
at all fit. And
No.
it was kind of a bit like watching the first 12 minutes of a Randy Orton match where you're waiting for the actual match to begin because
we'll get to that next.
They're just wrestling.
So the finish saw HHH, Triple H as he's actually known. I shouldn't be writing it down literally. Call him Trip. Trip came out and it was just great. As soon as he got out there, it became a lot more exciting because obviously they can't do man on woman stuff, but just Hunter's fantastic. So
he did so little here and yet you're still...
I know, it's just Hunter like. I think 2014 is the year. I think I last liked Hunter this much in 1998 as the babyface leader of DX.
Listen, Bree did a drop kick to Triple H, who was standing on the floor, and
what
then
a bump!
Yeah, he did take a bump. It was very funny. Nikki ran around the other side of the ring, and they came in so that Steph was facing the hard camera with a Bella on either side of her, and this was better than most of those kind of like person holding a chair and pushes the other person out of the way kind of spot. You know, when someone's turning heel.
Yep.
So Nikki forcefully pushed Steph out of the way and hit Brie with what was actually a pretty good forearm here.
Mm-hmm.
Knocked her down and then helped Steph up. Steph hit a pedigree, got the pinfall. It's something. It did kind of bother me that Steph had to win here, but I get for the storyline why she did.
I was okay. That didn't actually even occur to me once as an issue.
I thought maybe you could have done it like I think Jim Ross may have mentioned this. Do the idea of maybe Brie was wrestling for her job here, you know, and then maybe she wins her job back, and then they do a second match and do 2 pay-per-views.
Well, it certainly worked with the Rose.
But because it does feel like this felt very special because Stephanie was in it.
Yes, I don't think Steph's going to do another match. I think the reason Nikki turned is to.
But my whole point is that now we're going to get to Nikki versus Brie, and that will just feel like a women's match in the middle of the show. I don't think it'll feel like this.
I don't think it'll feel like this, but I don't think it'll feel like that. I think we'll land somewhere in the middle. Stephanie.
By the way, I had a German idea that grew during this match. I think that if because there's been talk that they will use Ronda at some point, I think you should find a way to use Ronda and Steph, because I think any other female wrestler, it just won't.
The promos alone. That's why you need Steph. Promos alone.
Now I don't know how you do the match, but I mean, I was just thinking like who's the
match.
What?
You could do a match, I'm sure.
Because if they do use Ronda, who's the alternative? It's really AJ Lee, who's about a quarter the size of
I think who's
Ronda.
The alternative? Bring back Beth. Nah, it has to be Steph.
No, it would have to be Steph. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Okay, so Steph ran to ringside and kissed her kids after the match. But before the match, Ronda, who Ken just mentioned, and the rest of the 4 horsewomen were there having a great time. WWE were gushing over, doing pictures with her backstage.
Did you see the video of Flair?
Challenge, Flair meeting her and just...
Can I just... Okay.
See,
there's two awesome moments in this video,
what this said to me is, like, Ric Flair has always considered himself, especially in Carolina, on par with all the famous football players and sports players. Yeah. The amount of awkward conversation Ric Flair has probably had with sports personalities over the year, as someone he would consider a peer, his self-opinion of himself is incredible, and he's never going to change.
Okay, so this is what happened, right? Rhonda and the horsewomen are walking toward her, and we, as the camera, are walking toward Flair as well, okay? So everyone's walking toward Flair, and Flair's like, where is she? Where is she? Clearly not knowing which one she is, right? And so Rhonda's like, oh, hi, Rick. And Rick goes, I just saw your movie yesterday. She goes, oh, really? What did you think? He's like, well, I didn't. He did. And then they have like 10 seconds of awkward conversation. And he goes, so you got this big fight coming up? And she's like, no, I have no fight coming up.
No, she goes, no, she goes.
She said, I'll have a fight in the new year, but they haven't.
And he goes, it's only planned. It's not planned.
Yeah, and
there's also an edit in this video as well, so you never know.
Oh, it was so
what
awkward.
was cut out.
Rick was just great here. Rick is just 5 stars, like.
But yeah, no, so Ronda was there, and yeah, I'd love Ronda to come in. She's just the greatest woman in the world, in my opinion. Like,
the greatest woman in the world.
She's just unbelievable in every way. Okay, so Randy,
she's prettier than Steph, at least, yeah. Oh my God!
Yeah. She'd have to be. You see, if it wasn't for Vince, I don't know. That's the issue, you know. Like,
it sounds to me like you're saying, well, Steph would be butt fucking ugly, but she looks like Vince, so she's kind of cute.
Think of the exact opposite. Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. Everyone is talking about this being a great match. I didn't think it was a good match at all.
I thought it was good.
No, I thought the last 5 minutes were great, but that was it.
Oh, so you kind of agreed with me then. I thought it was a fine match, like, but it was just.
People are like, oh, Roman Reigns finally had his really good pay-per-view singles matches. Like, I haven't seen it.
Randy Orton is a tremendous performer, but he is stale as a fucking slice of bread that's been left outside for 4 weeks. Like, he just needs to go away. I would say in the same way as I wanted and I was delighted to see CM Punk go, I would be happy for Randy Orton to disappear for 3 years. It would just revitalise him. He just feels like nothing now. And I mean, obviously he's always going to be over to a certain extent, and I know that they are not, when they're so thin on top talent, going to do that, but it would really, really behoove him to take some time off. It was a good match. Once Roman gets to his key spots, he's fine. I know people are going to be bored of this conversation. This new fucking gear he got, I mean...
This had a green trim.
No, it had like blue with like, I don't know if there's like a camo-y thing, but there's like a white sheen on it in places. I don't know what it was. But it's just not good gear, and he's got he's doing a whole line of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just terrible looking. It was a clean win. It was what it should have been, and yeah.
Let me say something about the network. Yeah, it was a clean win. Should have been. By the way, yeah, the last few minutes were really exciting. They have this. The reason I thought it was green is because they showed an ad on Raw for a new program on the network. That's right. The network is actually going to have a new program. Yes. So it's basically follows the 3 Shield lads on the way to SummerSlam.
Is that out yet?
This is what I was going to ask you. Do you know one of the worst features about the network is that there isn't a recently added section, that you can't go in and click on the last or the 7 days, the last newly uploaded things.
You got to find it probably in the original specials, won't it?
It's just fucking.
But also the thing that annoys me the most on the network is that there's no recently watched. Because if you're like me, right? Yeah. I'm watching. Say I've been watching Super Bowl and Stargate late. So if you imagine if you use the network like me and you do, you go to pay-per-views, you go to WCW, you go down, and you have to go all the way across to the end because that's where the S's are. Then you have to select the year, then you have to go into it, and then you have to press play. So you know, I mean, it's such a first world problem, but it's really irritating. If I go into Netflix, whatever I just watched is the first thing I see. Just go again. You know what I mean?
They really should do a lot with the interface, but you wouldn't expect them to do it because right now all they're worried about is the rollout and having to have it like sequenced to different markets. So the interface is probably just going to stay the same for a long time. It's really
add what to different markets?
You know, they have to cater like certain bits to different markets, like in terms of like languages or whatever. Like they're more just worried about a rollout than actually improving the core program itself. The main event for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena.
The World Heavyweight Champion.
Well, Hogan. So we had Brock come out looking trimmer than usual. He looked phenomenal. He looked a lot more kind of svelte in his abs region, and he just had tremendous presence when he came out. So Cena came out for the first time with the black and red new graphic.
On the Neill Marshall hot list, it goes Brock Lesnar won, Stephanie McMahon, Ronda Rousey equal in second. Is it?
I never said he was hot, Ken. I just said
Brock Lesnar looks phenomenal.
I'm so fascinated in Brock Lesnar's condition because
the diverticulitis, not
it's just everything. Like he just looks nuts. And I'll never forget when he came out against Hunter at WrestleMania and just sitting there going, "This is just
gassed off his tits."
He was big. But anyway. This match, if you don't know by now, this is the most historic squash match in the history of pro wrestling. It is the only squash match to ever headline a pay-per-view in contemporary pro wrestling. It's the only squash match to ever go 16 minutes and feature somebody who's been on top for close to 10 years in the biggest company in the world of those 10 years.
Neill, this is the greatest three-way hard way I ever seen.
It was 16 Germans. It was 2 hope spots from Cena.
16 German suplexes, by the way.
16 German
16
suplexes.
running in German.
So there's only 4 Germans on the United
By the
States.
way, oh my god, I have never popped as hard in my life as when I saw Kirsten fucking Schaefer. Do you know who Kirsten Schaefer is?
No, I don't.
Okay, when they used to do WWE shows over this neck of the woods, when you were probably just a glint in your daddy's eye in like 1994.
Okay, again, that's not true, but anyway.
Kirsten Schaefer would be the ring announcer here and in Germany and at one night only in England as well.
So he was part of the German crew.
Yeah, but he was like a European crew at that stage. And he looked like a different human being than he does
Sorry, what
now.
I mean is he was part of the German crew at SummerSlam.
Yeah. He was,
Okay, yeah,
sorry.
they had a German announce table.
I was
and
so
they
excited.
4
When I saw the
people-
name Kirsten Schaefer, I was like, you're not serious.
It's amazing.
4 men crowded around a table.
I know that. So we had 16 German suplexes, 2 hope spots. Both hope spots featured Cena's signature moves, an FU and an STFU.
Yeah, just the 2.
Yeah, 2 hope
I
spots,
don't-
and they were both as finish. The first move in the match, after a little bit of Brock roughing him up, was actually, in fact, an F5. And it was all downhill from there. Now, Ken, we have so much to say about this match. It's fascinating. First off, just in terms of the theory of the match, in terms of the psychology of the match, is the story here that it was just a squash, or is the story as intricate as the only reason Brock was able to take advantage because he was lucky enough to hit the F5 so early?
Right. You said there's so much to say about the match. I don't think there is. I think it's as simple as they wanted to make Brock Lesnar an absolute fucking killer, okay? They established that at WrestleMania when he broke the streak, but he broke the streak in a very, very competitive match. They've been selling this idea that Brock Lesnar is this undefeatable monster, but let's be honest. I mean, okay, not that people can't win-loss records, but he's 5-2 in WWE at the moment, but those 2 are very prominent because he lost 2 of his first 3 matches when he came back.
Yep.
And you really, really need to remove that stain from him, okay? So the way to do that was to have him just kill John Cena. I just thought, it's one of those things opposite to how I felt about the Ambrose Rollins match. I did feel like this was right, and I didn't feel kind of denied my classic match because I wasn't necessarily anticipating they were going to. I felt they had to do something completely different because they couldn't rival the last match they had.
Yeah, that would have been impossible.
But it was exactly what it needed to be, and my only gripe, I feel like at this point in time, they've taken things from MMA, like the tap out came from MMA, that kind of thing.
Sure.
I think it's time you start introducing referee stoppages. I thought there was a moment when Lesnar was pounding him on the ground with his elbows just before he kind of hit the second F5, where if the referee had just thrown himself between them and waves it off, I just thought it would have been perfect. And I think it just gives you, we always hear JR talk about getting rid of all the possible finishes. It gives you another possible finish.
But
and
they
gives
did 2 ref
away out.
stoppages over the course of the week. They did one at SummerSlam and
Exactly,
one on Raw.
yeah.
So,
But you know what I
but you
mean,
would have
like-
liked in that match.
Yeah.
I think enough was enough. I think the pinfall was kind of needed for the main event.
All right, yeah.
But
But when it was over, and I thought if they're doing a rematch next month, I would do a stoppage.
no, this is what I mean. We have so much to talk about because we need to talk about the fallout from it, and also what it really meant coming in. Go back to my first question: the theory that the only reason it was
No, I don't think that's...
okay, that's fine. Secondly, it just shows how much of a company man Cena is. I think
It really does.
it's been commented around the place that no other top guy would have ever done it that way.
This is why I remember you and I had a conversation on a show or 2 back about how about whether or not Cena has much input in his material, and I said just from listening to the Observer shows over the years that I just thought he did as he was told, and certainly in this match he just did as he was told.
I think that's different. I think booking wise, does Cena have much of a hand? No. Verbiage wise, yes.
I just think he will do whatever they ask him. Is my thought.
Sure, but I just think he's so unique in the way he speaks that I can imagine that he likes to cater how to get to point A to point B. He's happy with whatever point A is. He's happy being told whatever point B is, but he likes to get there because he feels he is himself. At the symposium, in fact, he had a whole spiel. Steve Austin asked him about the booing, cheering of the fans, the fact that he's never been 100% one way or the other. And he had this whole spiel about how he loves it, and the reason he really loves it is because this really is him.
It's fair.
So that's where I think the verbiage comes from in terms of being him. So we go forward here. We can basically, this is by no means jumping ahead of ourselves. We've talked about Raw bits and bobs anyway. They announced on SmackDown tapings on Tuesday, that it is going to be a Cena
Lesnar
rematch. I thought Big Dave was coming back, but
yeah, I think that's got to be the next one, doesn't it? Maybe Survivor
but
Series.
this is what we have to talk about because he's out of dates now till Mania.
I think they must have.
They have to have something going here.
Or else he's going to lose the belt.
Okay, so what's happening?
I think there's a deal agreed to maybe. I think maybe because they did the Rumble this year, which we didn't think he was able to do because he'd done WrestleMania in 2013, and then did he do Extreme Rules?
Yeah. Okay, so let's just know it was 3 pay-per-view matches per contract. So we had in 2012 to 2013 it was Extreme Rules, SummerSlam Mania.
Then you had Extreme Rules, SummerSlam, and Royal Rumble and Mania. So you've done 4 there. I
guess maybe they counted because it was in a later date. Maybe they counted Mania as part of the third contract.
My point is, they've done an extra one already for last year's. Because if you're doing Night of Champions, then we're already one more than we should have been. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if the deal starts at Mania and includes Mania, yeah, no, you're right. There is, yeah,
because the Mania one would be the last one. So yeah, it certainly appears as though there's been some agreement, and I think they'll do maybe a match or 2. I think maybe if you could get him to do, I think you could take the October pay-per-view off and put something else on the cell, and you don't need a huge pay-per-view.
Oh, I definitely wouldn't do them 3 in a row. Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely wouldn't do 3 in a row.
So then maybe do Survivor Series with Big Dave and do the Royal Rumble with somebody else.
Brian, if you were going to bring him back that early. Because you can't have Brian. You can't have Brian in the Rumble. Yeah, I'd hold Brian off till February.
I'd keep Brian away from the main event picture altogether because you don't want to fuck up things for Reigns.
Well, I would. Yeah, I wouldn't bring him back till the night after the Rumble, personally. Now, by saying that, you're saying that it's going to be a Lesnar victory over Cena. How can they rehab Cena and have Brock go over? What kind of a match does it have to be this time?
I think maybe it'll be more competitive, but Lesnar wins again.
But just more competitive. It would have to be more competitive.
Yeah, but it's an interesting one because if Lesnar is not losing, okay,
yeah,
then Cena is still going to be your number 1 guy. So you have to protect him to a certain extent, unless he's taking time off as well. But I don't see that happening.
I just can't. I can't believe that they're going to a rematch straight away after a match like that. It's fascinating. It is going to be fascinating.
I think
it's probably the right thing to do though, because
I just thought there's no one else. So
yeah, when Cena comes back, it's like, what do you want Cena to do? You want him to talk about that match. You want Cena's character to become that match because it was so big. Okay, let's do some podcasts.
Okay.
Austin had Kamal on the show. Did you listen to that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Sugar Bear Harris. I prefer to call him.
Well, I didn't, and I am dying to hear what happened.
It just was. Have you listened to much Kamal interviews over your years?
He's a very bitter man.
He's terribly bitter, yeah. He once claimed that his payoff for SummerSlam 1992... Did you ever hear the story?
Taker, right, yeah.
He claimed he got $15,000. The Taker got $500 million.
He said the Taker got
$500,000 for
for
SummerSlam 92. If you bear in mind, the SummerSlam 91 payoff's a public record, and there was $150,000 was the highest. For 91, and that's for Hogan, yeah,
and then Warrior and
all that stuff, yeah. So we're then expected to believe that the people in the middle of the card, because they weren't even in the top 2 matches,
that's a far bigger gate, Ken.
Yeah, well, anyway, so that was that. Then he talked about getting into the business.
Jerry Lawler doing his makeup and all that.
There was nothing groundbreaking. He talked a bit about he's lost both of his legs and stuff.
Both of his legs. Oh man, that's terrible. That's tragic.
I just there wasn't much of note in it, you know what I mean?
I can't believe Austin picked him.
It's just very strange. He really does,
some queer choices. The first part of a 2-part Mick Foley interview came out yesterday, and
by the way, you didn't listen to this at all, the Austin one?
No.
So you wouldn't have heard then. He recorded a 3-hour podcast with Dave.
Oh Jesus!
The day of the symposium, and he lost it. He took a call from Stacey, podcast 1 3 minutes into it,
right,
and paused the podcast and then never started recording again. And Dave apparently went mad, started banging his head off the hotel wall because Dave literally gave up his day.
Wait, he wasn't actually banging his head off the wall, I'm sure.
No, he said he was literally just banging his head off the wall, not hard. Also did make sure to say that he wasn't really hitting hard, but he did mention that he agreed to do Dave's as kind of a make-up this week. So...
so that's wow.
Steve will be on Dave's.
I
think we should get a weekly Steve and Dave show.
Oh, I know. Steve asking him questions would be fantastic.
Did you watch the interview with Dave and Sting?
Yeah.
It wasn't Dave just marking out for Sting something fierce.
Dave does do that.
He looks like such a fucking cretin, I think. It's very funny.
Yeah, he does. He does very much, but I think maybe that's how he feels he gets the best answers out of them. Yeah, Dave does seem like still overwhelmed when he's in person.
Doesn't he?
With people.
You know what I mean? It reminded me of me when I met Bret Hart, and I was like, Did I ever tell you? Do you remember that story? What I said to him? Okay, so I had this line ready to say to him.
I was
so nervous. Yeah, you were. It was in the basketball arena.
Okay.
I was so nervous, right? And I had this whole line I wanted to say to him. I don't remember exactly what it was, but one of the things I wanted to say was how much I loved the book, okay?
Yeah.
And he said to me, what was your favourite part of the book? And I went, it was just so comprehensive. My voice was still breaking when I was 24, apparently. Oh, God, the embarrassment.
And did he enjoy being told he was a comprehensive author?
He just, he smiled his way through it, Neil, like an old pro. But I'm sure
I did the exact same thing with him. I can't believe that.
What?
I got him to sign his DVD.
I got like 3 signatures. I got a photo with him. I got all that jazz.
I
have a photo, right? No joke. On my new bookshelf, I have a photo with me and my father and me and Bret. And my wife's like, "Oh, you put up these photos?" Like, yeah, these are the men who raised me.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. But it was very similar instance I had with Bret in terms of just being kind of caught off guard after having something planned.
Were you? Yeah.
Yeah, no. So it's the exact same thing, really. I had the DVD.
Yeah.
And he just stumped me. With the same question.
What's the best match?
Yeah, and I go, the one with Piccolo.
You probably loved that, though. He probably went back
I hope so.
his hotel room and jerked one out thinking about that cracker in Spain in 93.
Think about me.
The fucking hooer he brought back to his room that night. No, Bret. Can I just say, by the way, I've been reading his book again recently.
He is such a fucking...
I just love the way he
boyo.
glorifies his adultery.
Yes.
And at the same time, he's baffled as to why Julie is always so angry at him. I think it's fantastic. He's just
that's a weird
so
one.
blind to it.
You need to watch his 1992 timeline.
I have watched it, yeah.
Do you not think he's out of his mind in some points?
If you tell me a point.
That's fucking gone.
He
let's talk
should have
about
had his notes, though, because he's not nearly as concise as he often is.
Okay, did you listen to the Foley interview from Austin?
I know what you thought he was out of his mind on. You probably thought he was out of his mind on his out of 10 business. You know the way he talks about.
Yeah, that was a bit rough. Look, we'll get to that properly.
Okay.
We're going long here, and we haven't even talked about Raw. Foley interview.
Good, I really enjoyed that.
So good.
Yeah,
best
really
Foley interview I've heard in a long time. Yeah,
because Foley's very much he's a retread at this stage, isn't he?
He is, and Foley was shitting himself laughing.
Yeah,
but,
he really
all the stuff he was talking about with the
Cactus
Carlito
Foley,
match, and
that was great.
you know, he's terribly honest. And Foley, I think, usually is honest, but I think there's pure Foley, even when you would do the Observer and Torch. But then with Austin, it's
just you
know,
it's kind of like what Hulk was like with Dave. And yeah, for people who don't know, he mentioned that when he realised he could get as much money from coming back for a mid-card match with Carlito as he could with like his sensational feud with Orton, that he kept putting his cup in for another sip, and that's what made the TNA run happen and all that kind of stuff. And he did have, as he said, he had the perfect ending several times. But I mean, was his last match, was it the Flair one?
In
TNA?
Full Stop? Yeah, in TNA Flair match.
It's not a bad match to finish on it. That was pretty good.
It actually isn't, no. I really liked their other one as well. I'm in the minority on that.
In SummerSlam?
Yeah, I love that match, man.
Yeah, I know you do.
I really like it.
The finish, though.
Good.
Really?
Yeah, different.
The Melina thing.
I like different.
That was one of those where Foley had an idea and someone should have said, look, make no nose to your friends with fucking Melina.
Yes, it wasn't built up enough. I would go with that. Well, Foley's a heel, though, so it was okay.
I love the build up to One Night Stand 2006 with Edge. All that stuff.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Where Foley was letting Terry kill him with punches.
Yeah.
Of course. Jericho. Okay, Jericho had a few things. He had a SummerSlam / Robin Williams tribute one that I didn't really listen to. Did you get to hear it? I kind of listened to the start of it.
Hello, Chris.
Okay, we're getting there. Which one do you want to talk about? We'll talk about that first. He had a fucking show in the build to SummerSlam. If you haven't heard about this, where
I told you to follow the buzzer.
When Bray Wyatt.
Can I explain this? Right,
I
listened to the whole thing.
So did I. It was terrible.
He says he's going to take calls. Right, he takes one call, and the next call he goes, you know, normally when he takes calls, he goes, I've got John on the phone from, you know, from Boston, Massachusetts, and he wants to talk about X. He just goes, I got someone on the line here. I don't have a name or a number or what they're ringing about or where they're from. And it's like, what? Why? Wait, the producer just like, this man just slipped through. Yeah. You just heard, hello, Chris. And you just hear Jericho. Hello, Wyatt.
Yeah. No, it was like fucking Newman and Seinfeld. It's like,
really
hello, Chris. It's like, hello, Wyatt. Hello, Wyatt.
I felt Sister Abigail's kiss.
Yeah, Jericho. It's like, it was so hammy, guys. Like Jericho was like, I felt Sister Abigail's kiss before Bray. I know it hurts really bad. I know you've got like. It was just like, it was literally like a parody of pro wrestling.
But the best thing was when he finally, he's like, yeah, I'll see you Sunday, Wyatt. And then he goes, I've got to talk to you about DollarShaveClub.com, whatever the plug was. He just goes straight into it. Like, so he's like, he took one call to set up the fake call.
Yeah.
And it went straight into his plugs. It was just like,
and then he thought
such a clusterfuck. But you know the best thing about this is, right? I'm going to have to read like at least a page and a half about Jericho innovating in the business in 2014 in his next book.
Yeah.
About this podcast
promos. I was the first to do a podcast promo.
Oh,
he did have Chelsea on though, and it was great.
Awesome.
They'd met each other for the first time, I believe, it was the night before
on an airplane,
and they agreed to do a show together. And Chael's just, you can listen to Chael for hours, but he was. I actually thought he was pretty honest.
He dropped kayfabe here. And Jericho asked him about the drug test failure, and he just said, I tried to game the system and I got caught, and you have to come clean on these things. He was very kind of blasé. He didn't sound very phased, which may have, maybe he doesn't know Chris very well. So, but he didn't sound like, oh God, I'm devastated, And then Jericho asked him how he was able to compete at Meta Morris, and he said that he felt the Nevada Commission confused grappling with,
fighting.
Yeah. And kind of explained it this way that it made it sound like Nevada were idiots, and Nevada certainly have come off like idiots in the whole scenario anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was so much they didn't realize the difference as they realized he was going to compete and decided they didn't want him to because they might get egg on their face. But it's amazing how Chael has again somehow come out like smelling the roses because they made him the babyface by trying to stop him. They threatened to fine him $1.25 million if he competed.
It's incredible. I can't wait until Chael. The most an interesting was Chael said that TNA. He said WWE rang him to tell them they weren't, even though he hadn't contacted them. WWE rang him to tell him, we're not interested. If you were 10 years younger, we'd be very interested. But at 34, we're not interested. But let us know if TNA.
He's 37, but anyway.
37. He goes, but let us know if TNA give you a call because then our position will completely change.
Yeah, which was interesting. It's amazing that they care so much about TNA.
There was a long time I didn't think they did, but clearly it's not the case.
I don't think, the way Christian and a few guys went and came back, I don't think if someone went to TNA, I don't think they'd be so keen. I mean, maybe if it was a big guy like an Orton, but I think if someone like at Christian's level, like we'll say, who's there now? If Cody Rhodes went to TNA for a 3-year run, I don't think they'd take him back.
See, that's the thing. I think that they feel that the best way to ignore TNA is just never acknowledge anything. So that means if somebody goes there, they don't get to come back unless you're Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair.
Yeah, it's very strange.
So
what happens with Jeff and Kurt in the next? That's
it.
Kurt Angle's. This is a live situation now. Is he coming back or not?
But I think that it's different now because if they'll feel that they're bringing them back because TNA's gone rather than
if they are gone. Yeah.
So what do you think about the Kurt Angle contract's up this month, isn't it?
It's up on, I think, is either September 12th or 21st.
Sure.
So what do I think?
Yeah.
I think that if Vince will agree to meet with Kurt, maybe they can put together a deal. But neither of us know if he can pass physical. He's adamant he can. So, but again, I pegged Hogan. I shouldn't have said Hogan's at 45%. I should have said Hogan's about 35%. I'd say Kurt's about 40%.
Okay.
But as much as I would love to see Hogan do one more match, I would love to see Kurt do one more run. I mean,
that would be something that would be.
But there's not as much money, I don't think, in that.
Kurt and Brian.
It's more. It's a wrestling fan's dream. It's not.
No, I understand.
Because he was never a big enough star for them. They didn't present him well enough. That I still think it would be huge.
It would be pretty big. Ross had the Dudleys on together, was it?
No. It was Bully Ray.
Oh, sorry, because I missed it. So you talked earlier about the lawsuit. Any other interesting notes from him?
They tell a story when Ross, by the way, was at his usual.
Really, though?
It wasn't as bad as the Sting interview. Like,
so he wasn't drunk.
He hadn't been on the diet peach tea too hard, but he was still going on about what should be done, what should
just
be
my
done.
opinion.
Like he had to go. Do you remember they brought in a couple of Von Erich kids a couple months ago, and they beat Zema Ion and won the Bromans by DQ.
Yeah, they had Kevin there doing this. I watched that.
Why couldn't they pin the kid? I mean, you get the pop when Kevin gets the what the fuck's that the clown. And then you get the pop from the pinfall. It seemed natural to me, but Bubba, am I wrong? And Bubba's like, JR, I see both sides.
Playing the feds here. But, they told a story about when they got their paychecks for the first TLC. Not the tables match at WrestleMania, the actual first TLC.
WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
The SummerSlam was the first
SummerSlam,
TLC.
yeah. So they all 6 of them went to JR to kind of have a word about the payoffs, which kind of played into the conversation that Foley and Austin had about going to JR about payoffs.
It's very interesting.
And the idea was that Edge and Christian would do the talking, because the Hardys are kind of quiet dudes, and because Bubba was a hothead and Edge and Christian were, good talkers. So Bully just came in and just blew his fucking lid straight away about what the pay was. How it was bullshit. They should have gotten a lot more and all that kind of thing. And they got way bumped up for what they got on that show.
No, that's great. Story, and Foley and Austin said that nobody ever does it anymore, and people really should. If they.
By the way, isn't it interesting that there was all this talk about it's about 5 weeks ago about how we're going to find out what the WrestleMania payoffs are and whether or not guys got screwed, because we didn't know because it was previously based on the pay-per-view buys. This year would be based off the network numbers as well.
Yeah.
And we just never heard anything.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Whereas we had, if you remember, to the dollar, we had what the video game paychecks were. Remember that?
It's different sources for different things, but it's probably a lot harder to find out. Maybe the information on how much they got per buys might be there. Maybe they're being paid in 2 different installments. One
well,
for network, one for buys.
If you remember, with the video game, a lot of guys would obviously speak to Dave about that, and apparently they would previously get a check for about $70,000.
That's right, yeah, $75,000.
This time it was like 11,920 or something, but it was exactly this number David heard from multiple sources.
Yeah.
So surely one of these guys is on the roster, and
what's the thing is, I'd say that the one pay is far more stagnated than the other. I'd say that the video game pay was pretty similar across the board, so maybe that's why they can confirm the number, because it's multiple sources on that.
Yeah, but I'm just
whereas
thinking,
the main
surely
number is different.
Dave tweeted about how proud he was of Dave Bautista in Guardians of the Galaxy, and listen, I don't know anything, but let's be honest, Dave clearly speaks to Dave Bautista all the time, because they've spoken to each other in MMA shows before.
Oh no, they're pals.
Yeah, and
they're from similar areas.
Kind of has a relationship with Punk. We've seen them kind of go back and forth on Twitter, and he's spoken to him in MMA shows. So my point is, I don't think there's any way Dave doesn't know or hasn't got somebody who could tell him what the payoffs were.
Why hasn't it come out yet?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Speaking of Dave Meltzer, his compadre, in every sense of the Mexican term, Brian Alvarez, had Rosie from 3 Minute Warning on.
I couldn't listen to this.
It was so shit.
Was it?
Oh, man. Podcast of the week.
What was it?
Yeah.
Foley and Austin.
Okay, I'm going Foley and Austin, and a very big honourable mention to Chael and Jericho. So a good week for podcasts. Okay,
hello, Chris.
Monday Night Raw is war. Let's get
through this. Let's get through this.
I've been trying. I've been trying. My voice is almost gone as well after the gig last night. Okay, so the new logo's here. What do you think of it?
It's the same new logo I've seen for a year, whatever it is. Yeah.
But when you see it on the ring apron, when you see it on the backdrop, when you see it now that it is the thing, what do you think?
I have to say, it just so happens that, like I said, I watched that SmackDown from 2001 today. I just missed the fucking F, brother. I still miss the F.
Okay, forget about the F.
Get the F out, brother,
So because the old one was still the scratch
think
logo.
It looks very generic, very bland looking.
It's so horrible.
Oh, so you agree with me?
No, I don't
It's just 2 W's on top of each other. It's like they've taken their scratch logo and made it uncool.
And there's actually an imperfection in it.
Is there?
That came out today. People were looking closely. So at the second W, the big W. So there's a little W.
Yeah, and there's a
big W. And then there's the red little signature underneath.
Yeah.
The part in between the 2 points of the big W, the red, there's no white line. It's bumpered by white, but there's a black line instead, all fuzzed in. So they've an imperfection on this logo that they've already put on everything.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, especially because they got SmackDown wrong and put it on the trucks.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah.
I know. Okay, so we had Stephanie out to open the show.
Looking fantastic.
She was in a fantastic mood as well. She came out to Daniel Bryan's music, massive.
And she's wearing a Steph t-shirt, which they're selling on the website, by the way.
Yeah, they are. I saw it before SummerSlam, so I'm glad it's getting a little bit of airtime. She said that she wanted Nikki to come out to explain to the world what she did. Nikki came out down to the ring. Her shoe fell off.
I thought she recovered this quite well.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't like she didn't go, oh fuck, what of it? She just kind of picked it up and.
It was like when Lily Garcia happened to Lily Garcia and she stuttered herself.
Yeah, it wasn't like Ultimo Dragon at WrestleMania 20 either.
Exactly, actually, yeah. So she gave Steph a big hug. She talked for ages about how Brie always got the attention, yada yada yada. She says that Brie, she was actually embarrassed that Brie married Brian.
Now, pause. I need to make a point. I need to settle no score here with you, brother. You told me that that Nikki and not being kind of not Cena not helping Nikki and stuff was okay because Cena had never really been mentioned and Total Divas storylines were separate, but they were very clearly referencing the Total Divas storyline of John not wanting to get married to Nikki in this promo.
Absolutely. But did they ever mention him?
But you can't. No, my point is just you can't pretend they're separate universes. They're not.
John Cena. I
know John Cena doesn't want anything to do with Nikki on screen.
So it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
It doesn't matter then.
You can't have these references to it and then say, "Oh, it doesn't really exist."
Well, they can because they're out of their mind. But John's one rule is if you don't mention my name and if I'm never seen on screen with her, I'm happy.
I'm sure that's what he wants after, especially after what happened with Mickie James. Remember that when they were dating and then they were put together on screen, and they broke up, and he put the kibosh on it. But it just irritates me, as does the Cameron / Ariane. You know the way they're different names on the show.
Sure.
I mean, it's just why. Whereas the Bellas are the Bellas
because they want.
But Brian
to seem like reality TV, and they want this to be WWE. But when they need to, they go to the reality TV well and bring it in.
My point is, in Total Divas, Daniel Bryan is Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
The Funkadactyls are their real names, but the Bellas are still the Bellas.
Yeah, because Nikki's name is Stephanie.
No, her name's Nicole.
No, it's Stephanie. Stephanie Nicole Garcia.
Is it? Okay, well, anyway. The point, but
Brie is Brianna though.
I think it's. I'm going to wiki this.
You have a look there, and I'll keep going. So, we had Nikki coming out, and as I said, running down Brie. Brie came back out and said that she was actually willing to forgive her from the night before. Nikki was shocked at this. She gave her a big schmeck. And Brie stumbled back, ran out of the ring crying. It was a fine segment. And as we said early on, it's going to lead to finally we're going to get to see Bella versus Bella. And they do look different enough now that it would be pretty easy to watch. We had...
wow, Stephanie Nicole. But she does call her Nicole in real life.
There you go. But I'm right, haven't I?
Yeah. And Brianna is Brianna Monique.
But she's okay. So we had Big Show and Mark Henry kind of making their Raw returns with no real hoopla against Harper and Rowan from a match that they filmed the SmackDown before, or a rematch from the SmackDown event. This was all right in terms of like 4 really big lads, 3 of them which aren't great shakes anymore. Did you enjoy it? We had what was the finish here?
It was Big Show hit the knockout punch on the ginger dude into the slam by Henry.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was a pretty good finish, actually. And so this is fascinating because Mark Henry then gets involved in the second storyline. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But
there's a theory that Swagger is going to join Rusev and it'll be a tag feud.
Oh, so they're going to give Swagger the Sergeant Slaughter gimmick.
Yeah, I think you should. I don't see anything else for him.
You know what? Yeah, why not?
And then you can bring
Zeb back. What? Then you can bring Zeb back
as a face or heel, though.
Face with another lad.
Oh, I think he's more legs as a heel, but then you're in that Yokozuna situation where you have 2 managers. You know what I mean?
That is true. We had Ziggler talking with Ric Flair. Miz came up and started bragging about the fact he was going to win his title back. He only saw it last night as part 1, and tonight's match would be a sequel. And Dolph said he wasn't an A-lister but an A-hole. And Flair went, woo! We had Renee Young congratulating Seth Rollins on his victory last night.
Renee is great, absolutely.
She is fantastic. This is the best segment of the show.
She's a very pretty lady as well.
Think so?
Yeah, but she doesn't overwhelm everyone else. You know what I mean? She reminds me of a TNA girl called Lauren for one point, where she's just pretty, but she's not like big fake tits, big... You know what I mean? She's not like...
They really are...
she's just a pretty girl.
More natural-looking women than they have in any other time in their history. So Seth was there when suddenly a bucket of water was poured over his back, an ice bucket, if you will, and he turned around nice and slow to let it sink in. He saw Dean Ambrose standing there. Dean then delivered the line, "What? It's for charity."
That was great.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And then my favourite part, though, was he actually just threw the bucket straight into Seth's nose.
Yeah.
And they had a huge brawl. It returned from an ad break, and we had Rollins storming into Hunter's office where he was talking to Kane. He demanded a match. Tripp said eventually he'd give him a match. He was going to let the universe decide, though, because then Dean Ambrose's blood would be... I'm so used to it now. It got me for about 4 years.
When Bret Hart had to say it on his return, it just broke my heart.
Really? Yeah, when you see the older guy say it kills me. Although Hogan is such a shill, it doesn't bother me when he says it.
No.
Yeah, I guess it's just
just
part and
Hogan
parcel of
being
Hogan.
Hogan, like.
So yeah, no, he said it was going to be it was either going to be a no-holds-barred match, a no-disqualification match, or a false count anywhere match. And for those of you wondering what the difference between those two is, one of those two means you can pin outside the ring, and besides that, they're all the exact same. Natalia defeated Paige, so this is just like the champion.
I liked Natalia's new gear.
Yeah, she was wearing shorts and a kind of a...
This is going to sound weird, but she reminded me of Owen here. Which I don't, I'm not...
Floor is yours.
What? Yeah, I just thought, like, she had these thick legs. I just thought she looked better in shorts. As did Owen. Well, did he ever wear... Yeah, he did, yeah. He wore long pants with the blazer, so...
That's right, he did. Do you know what's really weird about watching 97 Heart Foundation, or the
fact that most of them are dead?
That isn't... Well, Jim Neidhart's dead inside, so yeah, you're really
because
close.
3 out of 5, they're dead.
No, I know.
And they were dead by 2002, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, man.
But anyway, go on, what were you going to say?
I think Bulldog was the only guy ever on the... And somebody can easily correct me on this, but I think Bulldog was the only guy ever on the WWF/E roster to constantly swap between shorts and long tights week by week.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Fucking bizarre.
British Bulldog bizarre.
I swear that wasn't a plan.
You're getting a 5-star Bulldog promo at Super Bowl 3.
Yes. Bulldog was so rambling in WCW. Oh, special partner. All right, so
I came to be the world championship heavyweight world's champion.
Fantastic. Okay, so this feud with Paige and AJ just really...
please, move on.
It just focuses around them getting beat, or the respective champion at the time getting beat. So yeah, AJ came out, skipped around, distracting Paige into an
this
Italian
finish, by the way.
Yeah, just got to get used to it because it happens
every
the time.
Yeah.
Paige got a promo at the start where she said that she loved AJ and she still considered her a friend, and this was for her. AJ pretty much did the exact same promo, except being a bit more dramatic about it. She ran into the ring because she said, "I have to just shake your hand, congratulate you," and Paige ran away. Then this was such a funny segment. This was such a strange segment. They'd built up that there was going to be a new championship unveiling. Now, if you haven't seen the difference between the WWE belt and the new belt, they're basically the exact same belt, except they've removed the name champion. But
have they? I didn't even notice that.
That's the big difference. It doesn't say
I
champion.
hate the new championship.
It doesn't say champion at the bottom. Yeah, it looks exactly like the Hall of Fame ring, except it's a belt. Have you noticed?
Yeah, it just looks so fucking shit and tacky.
I really don't like it either. But they brought Brock out. And
listen, just bring back the fucking winged eagle for me, will you?
It's never happening, man. You're dating yourself here. So they brought Brock and Heyman out.
The Continental title.
It's very true.
I just need Cody Rhodes to win it so he can bring it back.
And they unveiled it, and the crowd were just so like indifferent to this.
I think a lot of people didn't actually think it was a different belt.
Yeah. The crowd really just like, Hunter and Steph left. Heyman cut a promo. It got better and better as it went on. Just talking about Brock's new mantra being "Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Repeat." There was a beautiful moment when Brock was just sitting there laughing, and when Paul Heyman, said "Brock Lesnar" the way only he can, Brock Lesnar laughed and said, "I love it when you say that. Please say it again."
The best moment of SummerSlam, by the way, was when Lesnar sat up and did the Taker sit up and turned and then started giggling. That was just phenomenal.
Stuck his tongue out. Then he stood up and started dancing around.
Yeah, dancing around.
Baiting Cena. And Cena literally looked like he was going to cry.
Absolutely brilliant.
That was the best part of the match. Excuse me for not mentioning that earlier. I'm glad you did. Yes, that was pretty much the promo. Heyman really put over Cena.
It was a great promo.
And he really put over Cena. Said, Cena could be a Paul Heyman guy in a perfect world. And there was no mention of a new challenger, so that was kind of the first hint that we would be getting Cena and Brock again. Miz defeats Dolph Ziggler. Do you want to talk about that?
It was a count out. Basically, they were fighting, and Dolph was on the apron, but for some reason being counted out, which never happens otherwise.
That's right.
And Dolph super kicks Miz. Dolph falls to the floor. Miz falls into the ring, and it's a count out win for Ziggler. And I think, or for Miz. Did Ziggler then attack him after the bell? No, we don't need it.
Yeah, he did. He laid him out again. Because, parity. Backstage we had Jack Swagger talking to Renee Young. He said that...
I really liked this because the interviewer asked him, basically said, "You let down your entire country. What are your thoughts?"
Yeah.
It's just like,
how do you feel? And
he
Swagger
did a
was
good
saying,
promo saying he wouldn't give up and he'd get back on the horse.
yeah, it was pretty good, but he didn't because Cesaro defeated him in the next segment. They had an all-right match. It was absolutely no great shakes. Not the match they had, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? The match they previously had recently was better. After the loss, Bo Dallas came out and said Jekyll lost his manager, so his first in towards No Zeb that we spoke about earlier. He lost his matches, he lost his self-respect, and he let 318 million people down. He says the only thing Jack can do if he wants to get back to the top.
Leave.
Backstage we had Chris Jericho.
Hello, Chris.
And Chris... This is never going to end, is it?
I cracked myself up.
Chris just was like, it was a really, really, really babyface promo saying it didn't matter that he lost because he had the best fans. And the fans were like, Rah. It was very like a Rock promo from 2000 where the whole interview was based with Chris saying something so the fans could finish off the sentence and then Chris looking to the side. Always, by the way, if you notice when Rock did it, he would always turn to camera right and his left because no matter where they were, no matter what the arena was, the audience were always for some reason on camera left. Okay, so we had Rowan versus the Big Show announced for main event. I don't remember the spoilers for that. Reigns, RVD, the clusterfuck match of the evening. Reigns, RVD, and Sheamus defeating Ryback.
Can I recap this, please?
But you have to talk about how funny it was.
Oh, yes.
All the Ryback stuff.
Ryback was getting a huge pop from his hometown people. So Randy kind of built up big time his entrance and then kind of gave him a big point like Scott Hall and tagged him in. Ryback didn't do anything in the match, but
when Randy tagged him in, Randy started shaking his head, sticking his tongue out, and got out of the ring like really excited 80s babyface.
I wish he would do more of this like this. Do you remember when he did that crazy thing?
When he touched his toes.
Against Christian, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking phenomenal.
Anyway, so for God knows what reason, Rob Van Dam won this match by pinning Axel?
That's right, with a 5-star frog splash. I was saying the 5-star frog splash against Cesaro with the pre-show was
actually
a bit
2.5-star frog splash at this stage.
That's exactly what was said. Because when he did, I was like, when's the last time you would have done it? Because he never wins anymore. But there you go. So 2 for 2 for Rob Van Dam. Backstage, Randy Orton was walking to the back. Ric Flair walked up to him for a chat, and Orton told him to back off before he reminded Flair
why he was the Legend Killer.
Which I found very funny because, in fact, while he was the Legend Killer, he was running with Flair, so I don't think he needed much reminding. But then again, Flair's very old and doesn't know who Ronda Rousey is. Where is she? We had Bray Wyatt.
I just saw your movie.
We had Bray Wyatt.
Hello, Chris.
Jesus Christ!
Listen, if you hate it, please tell me because it's going to keep it up.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. My voice is so close to going.
Okay. Give me the paper.
You go ahead there, Ken.
So Bray Wyatt laughed and celebrated his victory while saying that he doesn't have a soul. His mission, rather, is to collect souls, and he called himself the face of salvation. This, people, is why I don't like Bray Wyatt. Goldust and Stardust had a mid-card match with the Usos.
Bizarre face versus face tag match.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but wonder. Don't get me wrong, I'm not huge on the Wyatt boys, but with Goldust and Stardust as well as Big Show and Mark Henry, why did we need babyface champions? Why didn't they switch them, you know? Because then you'd have 3 teams chasing now, whereas at the moment, really, it's just a dead division, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Like the tag division feels so much flatter than it did this time a year ago.
Absolutely.
And I also had that thought when I was watching Swagger against Cesaro. Those two were, if nothing else, a good tag team. They should have had a good run with the belts, I felt.
Mm-hmm. So Swagger said at Symposium they were the best team never to be champions in WWE.
Who said this?
Cesaro.
Did he, yeah?
Excuse you.
Okay, so Mark Henry interrupted promo. Lana and Rusev were doing their usual bit. Henry came out and basically had a go at Rusev.
Yeah.
I'm reading the notes, but there's not much to it. Rusev punched Henry.
He said that he was a 2-time former Olympian.
Which he is, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
I didn't know he was in Barcelona, but...
There you go. And it's a very good promo by Henry. Henry's now been there
so
long
he's
that every promo he does is a good promo.
He hit the world's strongest slam on Rusev.
It was the weakest that Rusev has ever looked in a physical altercation. That should be noted.
Then we had the main event. This was an awesome match. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose.
Did you really like this match?
Probably 3.5, 3 3/4.
Okay, cool.
Crowd very into it. It was just a good match. They had a lot of good spots. They had like a superplex off the top through a table. They had a crowd brawl that kind of felt more organic than the one night before. They did some spots in the announce table.
The chair spot?
They did a power bomb on top of a pile of chairs, which I always think is, I wouldn't like to take that.
Yeah, it looked nuts. I was set to Dean.
So anyway, the finish was Ambrose had hit the dirty deeds and was going to get the pin. Then Kane, who I just would fucking love off my television,
I agree,
pulled Ambrose out. He chokeslammed on the announce table, which was clearly reinforced because it didn't break then, nor when Rollins rather hit the stomp on him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they pulled a curtain off a load of cinder blocks that were just sitting on the floor the entire night.
Why were they there?
No one wondered whether. I think this might be explained on SmackDown, actually.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
Kane brought us ringside earlier in the day, kind of thing. Like
that'd be fantastic.
Kane, what are you doing with that wheelbarrow? Kane. Nothing.
I'd be so happy.
I want a vignette of Kane bringing the cinder blocks to ringside
in a suit, sleeves rolled up, sweating.
And then I wanted like a picture of him like hitting them with a hammer to gimmick it for later on. So they put Ambrose's head on top of one of these cinder blocks, and we had kind of a wide camera shot, and Rollins hit the curb stomp, put Ambrose's head through the cinder block. The ref waved it off, and that was it. And it in an update,
they shot an angle, didn't they, on the backstage pass?
Yeah, basically, they were putting Ambrose in a neck brace, and Ambrose ran off into the night sky. He's gone off to film a movie, but I think what they should do is when he comes back, he should be. They should say he's suspended because of his injury, just like Austin was with the neck injury in '97, and just have him constantly do run-ins. He'd get more over. He doesn't need to wrestle. Look at Sting and Austin at the exact same time in '97. Sometimes you get more over when the people don't get to see you wrestle.
Yeah, Sting, yeah, but WWE have never done that with a guy unless they are injured.
Yeah.
So, but I agree. You know, although looking at Wyatt and Jericho, you know, they haven't been wrestling much, and their matches don't seem special. It's something else.
All right, people. This Sunday at what time are we on the radio?
Yeah, we're on at 4:00 on 103.2 FM for our usual mixed martial arts slot. We'll be talking MMA for about 20 minutes.
Our show will be back to its usual Wednesday evening slot next week, our pro wrestling show.
Yes, that is correct. We're filming a day late as I had a musical festival gig.
Yes, Royal Autumn, baby.
That's right. Thank you very much for that, Ken.
And until next week, goodbye, Chris.